and welcome to the podcast. The idea for this podcast actually came from Jimmy Penguin of the Scratch Lords. We were talking about how there wasn't really any long-form conversations out there with Scratch nerds. And then, of course, Jimmy just said, well, then do it. So a few years later, it never really left my mind. And recently, with the colossal lineups of the Battle Ave meets Community Scratch Barbecue, and then followed a week later by Sample Music Festival in Berlin, I saw that there was a good opportunity to get people to sit down and have a chat. So just a warning, I'm no way an experienced or studied interviewer. I simply just told people I wanted to sit down with, let's have a chat about their local history and kind of go from there. So I'm sure I missed some big questions that people might want to know, and I probably got things wrong as well as we go along. So don't eviscerate me too hard online, please, in the comments. I thought the best way to kick this off would probably be with the cut and paste records one I recorded. So I managed to sneak the guys away from the Scratch Barbecue, and we sat down for a talk on how that all started and kind of where it went up until now. It was definitely a really good chat, and I learned a few things for sure, which you'll find out yourself, mostly about hidden little snippets inside the records I didn't know about. So first, we'll actually start with a clip of a performance, and this is from Community Scratch Barbecue in 2017. And this was all the guys from Cut and Paste. So it was Adam, Bell, Symatic, and Darcy D. But since then, Adam has gone on to work on other things, so it's, the interview itself is just with Symatic and Darcy. So a huge thanks to the Playground app for making the podcast possible. They've done all the equipment, they bought it all and paid for all the traveling and editing and all that, or done the editing. And of course, a big thanks to Battle Avenue, Jim Manipulate, Jimmy Penguin, and pretty much everybody involved in the Community Scratch Jams. Much love.
Practice roaring like a lion so you don't sound like a pussy.
Yeah, so the idea is just to sit down with dudes and kind of talk about how they got started. And of course, since you're together, Cut and Paste Records, it seemed like a good idea to bug you guys. So maybe start off with who you are.
I'm Darcy D. I'm from Canada. I like to scratch. I like to fucking do things that shouldn't be done all over. That's a pretty good fucking definition of what motivates me. Yeah.
And I'm Symatic, and I'm from Bristol, and I like to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's cool. We fucking hooked up. I hooked up with Sy. I moved to England, and I immediately fucking plugged into the local fucking turntable community through message boards and shit. And like, I didn't know anybody. I hadn't met anybody at all.
Digital Vertigo or something else?
No, it was Scratchworks. It was the other one. And it was funny. I hadn't clocked Digital Vertigo, and immediately like I fucking wanted a turntable, right? So I was like, can somebody fucking suss me out with a turntable? And fucking this dude drove over like from across the country to sell me a turntable, have a beer with me, and fuck off right away. Like totally sound adventure. And he was one of the guys who was fucking scratching at Super Scratch Sunday. Like fucking.
Who is that? What's the guy?
Ray Solito. So Russ is his name, and he's just a cool dude who fucking hangs out and cuts and fucking like does all sorts of art and shit. Yeah, man, and that kind of put me onto the scene a little bit. I kind of hooked up with people online at first, and then at the fucking sessions and shit, and yeah, man, we just fucking kind of met cutting on, like fucking chilling out online a little bit too.
Yeah, you asked me about that turntable. I think that was our first interaction. Like the turntable to borrow when you got here, you wanted to borrow a turntable, and like I messaged you and it was like, I've got a Vestax if you want it. But like you ended up, it was easier to do it with Russ, I think.
Well, the funny thing is,
I remember chatting to you about
I've
it one
bugged
way.
a lot of people about a lot of turntables. So
yeah, but I think when you were telling the turntable thing, I think that is how we like linked up.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we started messaging more on boards like Scratchworks and probably later Digital Vertigo and
yeah, and then fucking hooked me up in the real world. And
what year was that though that you moved over?
About 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I came from Canada to Oxford.
2012.
Yeah, something like that. Something right around then. And yeah, what was going down then? Yeah, we were just fucking hanging out, scratching, doing shit like that. And all of a sudden, I had clocked that Sy was starting to fucking like make these fucking skipless loops and shit, and he'd fucking have them up on Bandcamp. And
yeah,
like,
I just started making them at that point. Like
yeah,
because I've only just got Serato.
This was funny. I was running a Facebook group called Montreal Scratch Scene, and we had a file folder where we just put fucking like files for people to use and have cuts with and stuff.
Yeah.
And I randomly asked Sy if he had any fucking like dope samples and shit, because I'd clocked that from hanging out at sessions. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I have some stuff, man. Like, have a cut with it, use it, you know." Like, and I was like, "Oh, do you mind if I share it around?" He was like, "No. That's like just you fucking enjoy it." I hadn't clocked that at that time. He was like kind of fucking not really selling him on Bandcamp, but like, you know, he was happy to fucking like have people take it for themselves to use it and shit like that.
Yeah, they were up for sale on Bandcamp.
Yeah,
just because so many people, like I'd started making them just for myself to cut with, and like because it was cool having Serato, being able to cut your own things, and I was sort of like still fairly recently into like Vestax and ultra pitch stuff, which I got into much later than a lot of other people. And I was kind of like Die Hard Technics before that. But yeah, started making these sentences, and then so many people on like places that I'd shared them are like asking me for the same for that one, rather than like I thought it was more of like I thought of it as more of a here's how you do it kind of thing. And I had started working out the BPMs and just saying, oh, you can just put any samples on this BPM or whatever. But most people were just like, man, I don't have a sound editing software or anything, and so they just want it like
ready to go.
Yeah,
so
me,
like
I was a pretty good definition. I was like, no man, I don't want to know any of that, just fucking can I have the file please?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly like that, like, and then so I was like, man, after that happened a few times, I was just like, man, I should just stick them on Bandcamp for a quid, you know? Like it's not asking a lot, but it's just like fuck it, you know, like
of course.
So why not? And so then Darcy hit me up and was just like, actually what happened was Leighton.
All this was going on, and we were at the same time always going to these fucking sessions, these Super Scratch Sunday sessions, and we'd meet sometimes in London, sometimes we'd meet out at the fucking studio in Rye, and like just kind of all over the place, you know, always hanging out and fucking communicating more and all this kind of shit. And on one trip to a session in Rye, we fucking met Leighton. Who we didn't know at all. I didn't know
Leighton Harris.
Leighton Harris. Yeah. We didn't know. He just came up. He met us on a train randomly going to the same session. Like he wasn't trying to meet up with us or anything. He just somehow clocked there was a session going on. And he fucking had all these fucking records with him. All these big, beautiful fucking looking blue records, which was the Man of War record that he released 5 years ago now. And the shit kind of just like fucking put...
Well, yeah, I didn't meet him that time. I think I wasn't at that session, but I met him.
I think you were on the train, man. It was a fucking train ride. Anyway,
so,
maybe you weren't.
But I remember seeing. But I remember seeing that when he popped up, when Leighton just came out of the blue, pretty much onto some of the forums, and was like, which I guess at the time were quite heavily populated by mostly UK-based people anyway.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
Like DV and stuff, you know, there's international heads on there, but there's a lot of UK heads anyway. Like. He just turned up out of nowhere and was just like, yeah, I've got this scratch record that's just like amazing skip-proof disses on one side and like loads of wicked stuff from movies and like TV shows and random stuff on the other side. And it's pressed up in all multicolours and it's got an amazing artwork on the cover and like it's got etchings on the inside. And we're just like, man, like, how are you doing all of this stuff? Like, it's like, man. So we both hit him up. Like, he'd met him on the train and we were both sort of independently hitting up Leighton, being like, how do you do this stuff? And he works at the factory and that's how he's able to like do all the sort of extra bits because he's involved with it, you know. He actually specializes in etchings, right? And like he did the etching on the record that we just got pressed, and like that's a big part of his job there. So he's a real like artist with it, and so he's really good at lining it up. Yeah, and with all our records that are like kind of geometric in, you know, you can sort of like, you can see where the sounds are kind of thing. So he's really good at
the Q light. You can see easily like there's that sound.
Yeah, so he's really good at like lining it up and spotting that on the master and then like lining up the stencil that makes those etchings. Yeah. And he's a talented guy basically. And his scratch records were just like unbelievably well produced and just like we were like, this is the guy that knows how to get the wax done.
Yeah, man. And like,
so then what's the next step?
Yeah, well, you know, we very randomly on that train, I was like, you know what, dude, we're going to press up a vinyl with you one day, you know? Like, this is fucking totally doable. Like, all the ingredients exist. Yeah. And not long after that, a few months after that, just randomly one day I was at home and I was like, fucking size loops were kind of existing. Leighton Harris was kind of existing. And I was kind of ready to fucking put a big effort onto making some fucking like pretty cool shit try to happen. Right. So I just kind of sussed out what would be the easiest way to go about this. You know, we didn't have necessarily the cash to press a record up. So we hit Leighton up to kind of find out what the deal was, to find out what would be involved with actually going through with the project. Yeah. And it turned out that the minimum you could do was 500. Like there was no fucking way around that. Yeah. And, you know, I hit Cy up on it, and Cy was like psyched on it, but he was also like, I don't know, you know, I know a lot of guys with fucking 480 records under the bed. I don't know if this is the fucking best idea, but, you know, I was big on the hype. I was like, mate, we're going to do a Kickstarter plan. We're going to fucking do a campaign. And if the community's interested, if there's fucking interest from the community, like to get us like to the like 80% mark with the money kind of thing, then it's meant to be. Okay, and if there's no interest in it, that's a pretty good indication that we're going to be left with 490 under the bed, and the time's not now. And, you know, so I was like, we talked a little about what was involved and all that, and he was like, you know what, man, you're hyped on it. I know Cy knew exactly what the fuck he was doing. He'd been pressing dub plates, having dub plates cut for the longest time. Yeah. You know, testing his own shit out. So there was a lot of hype about it. And we said, how do we want to do this, man? Do we want to like forever be selling this shit to people? And we said, no, man, we're going to do a campaign for 10 fucking days. Okay. If people aren't interested, not going to happen. If people are interested, we're going to do it. And there was hype, man. Like, you know, Leighton had just done his record about a year ago, maybe. Yeah. And people were just hyped up. We were meeting all the time. We were fucking cutting. And like everybody.
Well, and also there was like a bit of a like, there wasn't a lot of scratch records coming out right then.
That's kind of what I was going to ask.
Yeah, Leighton's was like
also
the first
like
one in the longest time. You know,
like because like on those forums, like Vect was doing things like finding. I remember Vect like found some stash of scratch science records, and it was like gold dust, and he got it over to Canada and was selling them and stuff, and like everyone was just like, man, he found, you know, like couldn't even get scratch science records at one point, and so it was like, where's everything gone? And so like I think that was part of it, that people were a bit hungry for it, you know, like. And meanwhile Richie was doing his thing as well, like
the timing was just right. There was this like fucking underbelly vibe of everybody fucking like just itching for some fucking, you know, dope shit to have a fucking cut with. It was just it was kind of like a missing tool from a community. It was like all these fucking DJs meeting up, you know, like, and fucking investing on so many levels into this fucking cutting and these cutting projects and fucking shit. And you know, the records were missing. It was a little bit weird, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like records had been coming out, scratch records have been coming out for fucking, you know, 2 decades kind of thing. But it was kind of dry right around then.
Yeah. So then we got the interest on that Kickstarter and raised enough money to be able to do like a basic pressing, you know. We had color labels, but no like sleeve, no sleeves.
Yeah, I had the white yellow sleeve that looked like maybe you guys got it from the thrift store handing down.
Exactly.
It was mad hype, but we went mad cheap. You know, it was a big deal for us to come up with like, you know, well over £2,000 to fucking do this. And we cheaped out on every level. We didn't even have the fucking records delivered to us. Like we went down to pick that shit up at the factory.
Pick up collection.
And we lived in different cities. He lived in Oxford, I lived in Bristol. We made independent missions into London and like went and picked them up in suitcases.
That was an epic day, man. 2 suitcases on the train back, like fucking really hard mission.
That's awesome.
But we got to go and see the factory as well. And Leighton took us around, like saw it. Because that factory's got loads of history to it as well. That's the EMI, the old EMI.
In London,
press, so like a lot of famous stuff got pressed there back in the day anyway, like, and still now, like, but like,
nice.
So it was cool to go and see all of it and how it all got done. And
we didn't really have a plan. There was no end game. We just wanted to press this fucking record up. It was like just the fucking, you know, fucking just that.
The goal was to like cover the costs and like, well, we did a record for free kind of thing.
So wait, the first one was Cadence or was it combinations?
Yeah, no, you got it. Cadence.
Yeah, Cadence, right?
Cadence was the first one.
And so that was your, I think I remember hearing that was your insisting that sample must be on the record.
Here's the story on
insisting.
Not insisting, but...
Sai had a whole record. He had a whole record worth of loops. But like he wanted to include like some fucking artistic content for me. And he's like, well, what the fuck do you want to see on the record? And I was like, this shit's pretty dope. But I had just started getting creative with stuff at that point. Prior to that, I was like a guy who'd wake up, I'd do like a fucking hour a day of practicing patterns and shit.
Yeah.
And I'd been doing that for about 5 years up to that point. But coming to the UK, I was starting to get creative with shit a little bit, like seeing other guys doing cool stuff like Dubba Dutch and all that kind of shit. And I'd worked out my first routine. It's actually one of my first fucking like things that I do that isn't just fucking cutting on a video.
Right.
It's a cadence with rhythm and flow routine where I sample up some fucking shit off of a Mac text edit and I have a cadence with rhythm and flow.
Yeah.
And like I was like, you know, if we could get that on the fucking record side, that'd be fucking dope because I'd love to have a cut with that. I just had my kid a year ago and I was so hyped on it, you know? And so I was like, yeah, man, we can totally make that happen. So like Sai helped clean it all up and make the sample fucking sound fucking dope and lay it out all the right way. And that was the last loop that went along with all the fucking work he put in on it.
Nice.
Well, we made it say fresh as well to complete the loop.
There was
make it
nice
fit
space
kind of
on
thing.
it.
And it was like, why not have a silly computerized fresh?
It was cool though. You know, a really dope thing about that record is like, you know, Sai was like finished with having fucking on fresh all over the place.
Yeah.
But you know, people were obviously using expecting it, and we were like, you know what? It's gonna go on the record. It's gonna go right on the end. You know, we want.
Yeah. People. Yeah, I'd asked a couple of people like because. There was a few ideas floating around at the time on forums as well. Like there's vague like people saying, "Oh, we should do like a bunch of us on the forum all do like a loop each and stuff like this and projects like that." They never quite happened, but like so there's a few people talking about it, and like that was one question I'd asked. I was like, "What if we did a record that like didn't have R and fresh on it?" Because there's so many of it. Obviously, everyone loves cutting them, but like there is other stuff. like and so many people were like, it's not a scratch record without that. Like I can't, and it was even though that was it's kind of, you could see that as being lame. It's actually still a good point, or that's why I still put it on there. But like, because it was like, you don't want to make a record that's supposed to be like everyone likes every loop or whatever.
Right.
Like that was kind of the idea behind it, is make them so it's not just like a record that you put on and you only use one loop over and over. It's like the idea was like one record with loads of cool stuff on it, so you only have to reach for one during the whole set. You've got plenty to play with, kind of thing.
Plenty of phrases, plenty of long.
But within that, it was still useful to, if you want a record to be like that, then it should have Iron Fresh on it because you want that as well.
Yeah, you want it to be a multi-tool.
So ultimately, without being like, without trying to get all diva-ish and going, you can't have Iron Fresh because of stupid reasons. Then like,
it was better just to see someone that doesn't know the record go like right to the first track and go like, check the second track.
Yeah.
You're like, it's at the end. It's at the end, man.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot of times. It's funny.
And another really cool thing is that record starts off on, before the first loop, there's this fucking golden nugget on there. The "Hi kids," and there's this fucking this wicked sample.
Yeah. So I started the intro going like, this record contains fuck shit,
foul language,
explicit lyrical content, and
but the really dope thing is, so I had clocked it all up. That was all clocked up on a skipless clock as well, like the rest of the record. Relatively fucking tight.
Just to make it kind of more usable. So the whole record was like
and the reason is interesting is that was what I guess that was the hidden nugget on there a little bit, and it wasn't even that hitting. It was right at the front, but I'm sure tons of people.
I
don't actually know that it's there. And
I use that record all the time. There you go.
I was gonna keep quiet. I was like, that's funny.
But what's dope about that is that
I've never heard it.
You put the first groove on his little.
I never go the first groove. I just pop into the middle of a skipless section and go for it.
There's plenty of records out there with like more hidden stuff on
them.
And
that became a theme. So like after that, in records that came out after that, Psy stuck lots of golden nuggets kind of all over the place, and it was never highlighted at all, really. Maybe recently a little bit it gets highlighted, but that was
also just to make it more usable, because it's like a skip proof is cool, but often people are like, I want maybe some more samples or just something a bit more atmospheric.
Sometimes you find yourself using in between the skipless tracks, so like the one ends on off fresh and the next one says like,
exactly.
Kind of like, you go right there to that spot so you can use both, and and whatever.
So it's just to keep like more content on there, like like the older scratch records that don't use skipless the whole way through. There was still so much on there. But that was just the whole reason that I got into into the making dubplates, like what Darcy was saying, is like I'd spend 15 quid on a scratch record, but only use a tiny amount of it. A lot of it would be stuff I didn't really go back to.
When did you first try that to make a dubplate? Like when did that first come about, when you got into that?
I can't remember what year it would have been. It would have been like like the late 2000s. Because basically, like, my wife found out about this place in Bristol. Like, we were living in Edinburgh at the time, but she found out about this place in Bristol that cuts dub plates. Like, she read some article about the guy because he'd done this, like, one-off amazing, like, bit of jewelry. Like, she's into jewelry design, and, like, he'd done this bit of jewelry where it was, like, a playable ring. This guy had wanted for his wedding. Like, it was like a... You know how Edison's...
Like a cylinder-style record.
Yeah, but you had to make a little player for it and everything. What? So, like, that's how she read about the guy. And she was like, he's this guy in Bristol and, like, cuts dub plates. Like, you're into that, aren't you? Like, like records and cutting records. I was like, yeah, wicked. And she actually got me, like, a voucher for it.
Nuts.
And
that's awesome.
So it was like a birthday present, like, to get like a custom record made, and like
so that's kind of where it comes from in a way. She was the seed.
Yeah. She sort of shot herself in the
give
foot.
Give her a high five for that one later. I will next time I see her.
But yeah, no, that was when I got my first dub plate. Yeah, it was from that, man. It was like a present, and it was like awesome. So I what
did you put on it? Do you remember that first one?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I still got it, man. It's good. Like, it's cut by like it was called Dub Studio at the time, but it's called Higher Level Mastering now. A guy called Henry.
Yeah, I've seen you post stuff like that on Facebook or something. Or like,
and he cuts like dubs for a lot of people in Bristol. There's like a big you know, reggae and dub scene, and people like cutting like grime and dubstep to dubplate, and like he knows how to cut like loud and make it fat, you know. So I thought it was a perfect place to go. Anyway, and and he was just like really helpful with like explaining how it was done, because I went through and was like, I want to do this skip proof thing. I think it works like this. I had a basic understanding at the time. Like I knew like you could fit it in. I knew the BPM that you had to fit it to for like a basic one, you know. It wasn't even that actually. I didn't even know the BPM. I knew the time. I knew it was 1.8 seconds. So on that dub plate, like they're all clocked. They all start at the same point. So they're all clocked up like that, but they're all different BPMs. Yeah. So like you jump between ones and they're not all going to be in the same thing. Like, you know, it took a while to like work that out. And, but that's good, you know, because it's a learning thing, you know, like dub plates are a lot cheaper than pressing up a whole record and finding that out at the end, you know? So, I got another one done later on and just, you know, just gradually got better, like at clocking them all up and making it in a thing. And then I got Serato. I sort of avoided getting Serato for years, and then I eventually got Serato and started messing with the digital scratch sensors. You know, obviously that was even cheaper because you could just do your own file for free or whatever once you bought this thing.
Do you have any of those still? Like any of the old kind of like
the old
track, like scratch loops or scratch tracks you made from back in the day? Digital ones?
Yeah,
you kept them all? Like you haven't lost any of stuff?
I hope I haven't lost any. Like, you know, they'll be backed up somewhere, I hope. But like...
do some like throwback.
But back then they weren't like, you know, I was sampling just for myself to have a cut, so I wasn't really paying too much attention on quality. Some of them are like sampled off vinyl, some of them are sampled off some YouTube MP3 probably, you know, like, it could be anything. So like, part of me always wanted to like find all those samples again and like remake it out of in better quality, you know. But like, could also just do something else instead. So like, that's always what it's ended up being. So some of them, in fact, some of them I've recovered, kind of thing. Like I found them later and be like, oh, I should put it back together. So like, even on this Scratch Lords one, there's one that's on that original.
That's from
file,
that original.
Like,
Nice one. So where did Adam come into this? Like with the cut and paste stuff? How did Adam get involved?
So Ad, like, me and Ad were mates from the Super Scratch Sunday thing anyway, and all of the online stuff like the forums and all of that. And me and him went to DMC one year, and we just got the Cadence record done, and like I was pretty rubbish at like going out and like giving them to people and saying, do you want to buy a record?
Promoting
or whatever,
it,
you know, like, but he was really sick at it, and he was like super well connected as well. Like he did, like Ad's like always been, big on the the scene. You know, he knows everybody. So he was just constantly just like being like, oh, sorry, just like another guy wants your record, like come chat to him or whatever. So I was staying at his that night, and we were like, I was like hyped about that, and like, and we were chatting about how it was made and stuff, and like he had ideas and stuff. He's like, oh man, I've got a bunch of acapellas here. Like you were just chopping up acapellas at the time, you know. So like, I've got a bunch here, like, and we started doing it just as an example kind of thing. But we ended up just fucking staying up all night and making most of what became combinations from the masters, the second record. And so at that point, like, he kind of went, let's start a label and you know, we could do this sort of thing. And I was like, well, like me and Darcy have just done that. Like, why start up another thing? Like, why don't you come into this thing and we do it as a free man thing, and we've all got a little sort of strengths that we can work with, like. And so we finished the rest of that record and put it out. And then what happened? Like,
well, then Adam went on a wicked adventure to America. He went to America, and that was just after Combinations from the Masters was pressed up.
Yeah,
and we were talking about like what we weren't sure what we were doing next. We weren't, necessarily as confident as we are today. We're like, oh, what's the next right move kind of thing. What do we want to do?
Yeah,
and Adam had sussed out that to fucking do a 7-inch, he would be a relatively fucking smart thing.
Yeah.
So
there wasn't a lot of portable stuff going on then, but it was becoming a thing, and a massive like part of the portable scene, like before it was a scene, was a thread on Digital Vertigo.
Yeah, I know the thread.
Yeah, where people like Rastery and
Wax Inspector. Yeah. Shout out to Tony in Berlin.
Yeah, and like they were like super advanced with the portable thing. You know, they've been doing it for years. Like, like I'd tried a few years before with a really rubbish passive fader and like really badly soldered it into mine. Like, but they were like next level. They had it all sussed out. They'd taken the whole thing apart, like put new speakers in it, and like, they were like light years ahead of everyone else.
Yeah,
and like so, added clocked onto all of that. Going on as well, and was just like, like people are crying out for that sort of thing. There was a couple of scratch records, like I think there was like a Super Seal one, but it was super rare. And like scratching on Vestax portables was kind of, I'd seen a couple of videos of it and stuff, but like the portable thing hadn't blown up yet. And then everything just kind of happened at the same time with that, with like people, various people coming out with their own fader.
Yeah,
people breaking down how to do it yourself and everything, and so
the third one was a 7-inch then.
The third record was a 7-inch.
Was that and the way you guys did, if I remember right, the split version, right?
Yeah, we just put because it was like we're never going to fit everything on the 7, so like let's do like a kind of, I don't know, you call it like a best of or whatever.
Combinations
like,
of the combinations.
And
combinations with rhythm and flow was how it worked out.
Right.
Which confuses the hell out of people because we forgot to put the title of the record on the album cover. Instead, we put each,
a labeling nightmare, wasn't it, or something like, or whatever. But
it offered much confusion to many record shops.
But so then that was cool, and
that was like a really well received project. That was a really well received project. We were surprised at how well it was received. We like Cy was saying, we knew people were getting into portable shit, but we didn't realize it would blow up like it did. And
it's a popular record for portables. Like many people's favorite.
And so and by then, like because kind of parallel to that, like we'd got involved with the community scratch music scene. Yeah, and like. That was something that both of us had, again, like separately found out about and sort of wanted to go. And we
what was the first year then that you guys went and went down to either the barbecue or the games?
I was meant to go 5.5 years ago. My kid was going to be born the same week.
That was my deal when I went there.
It was going to be born the same week that my kid was born, and I had permission to go. My girlfriend at the time said, she knew how into scratching I was. Like I was. This is back when I was like doing all my drilling and stuff. And she said, "No, man, you can do it." And I was like, and Jimmy had given me the nudge. I'd kind of felt out like I was like. I found this video online. It was the fucking Scratchworks video that they put together of the 2011 barbecue tour, I think it was. And there's this part with Jim Manipulate where he's got the bar of gold and he's got his little kid. It's like a bit of
like 2009, I think. Because I remember watching the same video and being like, "Whoa, that's like so cool."
So the year's wrong, but I was like, "Oh my god, this shit exists! Like, I need to meet this fucking human." Yeah. And I hadn't figured out at that point if like they were still doing stuff or what it was. I didn't even understand like what GOD, nozzle, community scratch music. Like, that was kind of like the opening of the portal that got me kind of talking to Jimmy P, asking like, what's the deal? Like, if I come down, what's going on? And he just said, you come down, you got a battle, you sleep on my couch, all going to be good. And the first year I screwed it up. My kid, it didn't work. But the next year I made sure not to fuck it up. I got on that plane and I just, made my way to Galway randomly. And I remember walking around to the beer house, kind of half lost, and I met Valance in an alleyway. He was the first. Nice. He was the first guy. Valance was standing.
I met Valance in an alleyway outside the barbecue. Probably the same year or something.
Crematorium wall.
But Darcy always went to. He started going to the games in Galway. The first event I went to was the barbecue. I went to barbecue in like 2010, I think, because it must have been like after tour.
I'd missed all that. It was going to the games in Ireland that brought me to the barbecue. I kind of didn't clock that there was this big thing going on. Like these guys were doing so much stuff, like the whole community scratch music crew, that like it was all out there, but I didn't understand all the links between everything really. Like people were just doing shit and not promoting it really too hard. They were just fucking having
I mean, in the States, I'd see the videos and. That was like the extent of what I could find,
Yeah. Well, they were promoting it, but just like not in the same way as everyone else, so it didn't get like the.
They were putting it in your ear, But they weren't trying to sell it to you at all. They were like, here's some dope shit to listen to, and that was the end of it. And I went up there that year and fucking had the most amazing weekend of my life. 3 days of no sleep, man. Got home fucking looking like a goddamn mess. Clothes falling off my body. I thought when Jimmy told me I had a place to stay, I thought that meant a room with a bed or something. It just meant, no, mate, you gotta scratch your ass off for a bunch of days. And it was cool, man. I'd never seen shit like that go down at all. Like the buzz of my first time going was like just mental, man.
Yeah.
And And Sy came. Sy was up there. The next year a bunch of humans came up. Yeah.
So you went the year before I came the first time to Galway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I came down to a few of these, basically, to a few of the barbecues, because we would always arrange a Scratch Sunday to be in the Rye studio because it was nearby, and
I'd see on the
try and coordinate it all,
I'd see pictures of it, but I didn't clock it. At one point, I confused the two. Like I almost thought it was one thing going on. I wasn't fully sure what the deal was.
And that's how the two things became one thing, because it was like, why they were like, why are you going off on the Sunday to have Scratch Sunday when we have a Scratch session at the end of this anyway, and there's amazing stuff, because we'd have to leave like an hour early or something so that we could get there or whatever. And it was like, why don't we just do that here? So it became more of the Scratch Sunday part of it became a feature of the barbecue and a regular thing.
And that got us kind of like, clued into what the hell was going on over in Ireland, and that got us kind of like fucking just hearing all the music and hearing all that stuff, and gave us the idea to like, maybe we could release some music. That was kind of like an idea.
Well, actually, with combinations from the masters, we got the test pressings for combinations like the day before. We've had loads of lucky times like this. Like this time, we just had a box arrive just in time for this. But that's happened loads of times. Just lucky breaks like that, where it's just So at the games that time, we had the test pressings. Like we got extra test pressings done so that we could give a few out to some heads out there. Yeah. And like they arrived the day of the games or something. I remember like stamping. We put stamps on them and stuff. So we're like stamping them all over in the hotel room and like wafting them to keep them dry so we could get them given to people. But man, there's people still rocking those. Like they came out really heavy, even like they weren't perfect, but but like. People still rock them out. Danny Depot made a whole album out of his. So like, those little lucky breaks are always really cool. Like, they often like lead to more stuff happening. Yeah, man.
So then, so that's record number 3.
Four was Just Stay Funky Like That. That was like
a follow up.
That was kind of like, let's jump on this and make it again. And then by that time we were also talking, we kind of made it parallel to the ZA record because we were also talking to the NMCP guys, the Russian guys.
So that's what I was curious, how did you come across them? I mean, how did you guys meet up or start talking?
So I think I just met them through the video chat room that people used to scratch on, like people go on Tiny Chat.
On Paltalk or Tiny Chat, yeah.
Tiny Chat, yeah, it's like Paltalk, yeah.
Yeah.
Take it in turns to scratch with. You can show each other your cuts or your routines or whatever. And those guys popped up on there, I think, and was chatting to them. And I think I was like showing off one of those dub plates to them or something like that. They clocked something about dub plates and messaged me privately about it. We're like, oh yeah, we've got something to show you. And they showed me these videos. These like they kept it sort of secret back then. They had these like private videos on YouTube. They gave me the link for that of like this lathe that they built. And I was like, you built a lathe? Like, I know that's like one of the most complicated things you could do. Like, no way you built a lathe. And they're like, yeah, man, we like studied it 5 years. Like, we couldn't get one sent to us, so we just built it. We just learned how to do it and built it ourselves.
Made our own
and like,
spaceship.
I was just like, man, that's like incredible. And like, we shared loads of common interest with scratching and stuff. There was another dude in Belarus called Electro Food. He'd also come on the video chat thing, and we just like nerd out about, like, they were making these incredible beats, and they were cutting dub plates for all of the heads in Russia and Eastern Europe that were making like this sort of type of almost, I wouldn't say throwback hip hop because it's a modern it's a modern sound to it. It's like they've collected old samplers and stuff. They want that sound. from those old samplers and recording onto tape or whatever. But then they like make like the modern equivalent of that, you know?
Yeah.
Some amazing stuff anyway. Basically, like the tuned into loads of amazing stuff going on there, and everyone gets their stuff cut with them. They put out like the Dope on Plastic series as a series of dub plates. Like there's volumes 1 and 2. You buy like, I can't remember, it's like 7 little dub plates. And they got 2 tunes, 1 on each side. They cut them themselves, man. They're entirely themselves. Like, so like, so we did a project with those guys. I went out when we had combinations from the masters. They invited me out to Belarus, and we did a couple of gigs out there. They had their dub plates. I had the combination from the masters records, and like we were both doing the same thing, like making these ultra pitch vocal, the emphasis on vocal sounds, and like we could see what each other's records were doing without even having to listen to them, like because we were both doing it in the same way. So it was really cool. Like, and that was when I realized like how functional these things were. That we didn't even have to explain them to each other. It's just like, yeah, cool. It's like on this clock there's 4 or whatever. However you want to explain it.
Right.
Like you can see where the sounds are going to be. It's like, man, you don't even need like headphones really, and like just. So yeah, it was cool to see that, and so we did a project with them, which was the first record.
And that was the first project we did with anybody out of Cut and Paste Records.
Yeah.
So we kind of wanted to suss out if that was something that we could do, if we could work with other people in a successful way that was like still community oriented basis.
And we wanted to work out if we could sell people the records with music on it as well as scratch sounds, because like would people freak out with like why didn't you just put the 90 BPM version, the 99 BPM version on the other side? Like as the kind of that had become kind of a format.
You're getting more stuff. Like you're gonna get tunes, you're gonna get all your loops,
exactly,
and you're gonna get tunes.
And these guys were making such amazing beats like Electrofood and Q and Knocker. They were just, their beats are just like next level, and it was like they've got to go on wax, so this is the opportunity to do it. So we sacrificed the having a different BPM of scratch samples for having a side of tunes and a side of skip proofs.
And once upon a time it was so successful with all that dirt style stuff, with all the beats on one
well
side.
Exactly, yeah, that's how.
So like it wasn't like drastically,
But I remember
massively risky idea.
But I just remember us being kind of like, I was anyway. I was like, people are still going to be into it. They're going to be like freaking out and be like, why don't you have it like this? But anyway, people were feeling the beats and people were feeling the cuts. And the whole vibe of the thing, like they did this amazing.
Were dope on that. The loops were great.
They're really good, and really raw, like really fucking really gritty raw loops.
And they also the artwork they got done was just incredible as well. Like
so then, how did it work on that? Like that's all their side. Like who was creating the loops? Who was putting? I know the beats is all them.
That's
it's a combination of work between all of you. Right?
Yeah, we just worked together over the internet. Like they would send me loops. Like they could cut themselves test pressings and stuff. So they gave me a test pressing. They cut like a 10-inch dub plate with most of the sounds on it there, and they were like, this is our shit that we cut with, know. And so, we basically used most of that and rearranged it a little bit to make it more kind of easy to interpret, or whatever, like just to line it all up nice. And like, and we also, I added a few things, like I chucked in a few things that I thought would be cool, like offered them up as ideas, like, and they were like, put that one in there. And like, it all just got chopped and changed into a bigger thing. And then I also hit them up for some instrument samples, because we always thought it was important to, the first one we didn't do it, but we always thought it was important to include some, if it's going to be a scratch tool, like include at least some drums and some tones. Yeah. It's like combinations got some tones that are in key with each other, and there's some drums on there as well.
Well, that was a funny thing. For a long time in the beginning, we'd been going to sessions at the Super Scratch Sunday, and like, it was hard to get people into jamming on a musical level a little bit sometimes. So we wanted
even though you've got like 8 people cutting at the same time, and that you're just like, guys, you could do so much right now. We all know we're capable of doing it because we all cut, all day.
Yeah, and a few years ago it had been a little bit harder then.
But it's difficult getting the like. Getting the vibe going.
Time to get a little more musical shit going on.
Right.
So that was a dope...
But it was kind of a thing that we wanted to kind of, let's always sneak some of these things just so they're out there. And also having just tones. Me and Darcy have always felt like there's not enough of them out there. So we just like, if every record we could do has some tones on it, then it's like just adding to the pool of stuff that anyone that's into that can.
The pool of Tool.
Synth library.
Pool of Tool, yeah. But like, with the ZA record, that was the first one that we really put some effort into the musical side of things as well. Like I hit them up for like some stems from the beats that they make, and like clocked them all up to the grid, and just sort of added it on as a little extra at the end, like some little ultra pitch.
Yeah, I remember noticing that.
Yeah, and like they came out a bit quiet and stuff because we were still learning how to like master stuff and everything as well. We don't, learning as we go. So like they came a bit quiet, but it was wicked to have them out there and have it as an option, and like just develop the whole kind of musical side of it a little bit more, offering up those sort of tools to people. And if they're not there, people aren't going to make that sort of stuff, and I want to see more of that stuff personally. People making stuff live, like,
And that was cool. That kind of led to some like pretty amazing drastic shit going on after, not the next record. The next record was a follow-up to that record. It was the 7-inch that came out. Yeah. Which was pretty much just a question of rearranging stuff.
Yeah. And we did that one on purple wax for the first. I think was that the first time we did the.
That was the first color one we did.
Wax,
yeah, the purple. I got the purple.
And actually, it came out like it for some reason purple. For whatever reason, is a bad color, and like we didn't know that time, but it sort of wore out quicker. But like,
but it's a dope record.
It's a dope record. There were less loops on there because despite people liking the first 7-inch that went out so much, there was a lot of content on there. And the bands were pretty thin.
Yeah, they were.
And for some people, it was like it was great to have so much stuff on there, but it was a little bit of a pain in the ass to have to be so exact with it.
Yeah.
With a portable as well too, because you might end up skipping quite a bit too. And then
and back then you didn't have like the Jesse Dean tone arms and everything.
Yeah,
those weren't commonplace.
Stable platters.
So it was really, and that was kind of why like. At the time, it was sort of like you didn't necessarily notice that record burned out so quick.
Yeah,
I don't think we clocked it immediately because you're just like you're cutting on portables. Like, of course, it's bad for the record. Like, what do you want from this thing? Like, but then by after a while, people were modding them up and putting proper needles on there and stuff, and it's like, no, there's definitely this thing's a bit fucky. So we repressed it in like black to make sure it was like okay, like.
Oh, that was the reason. I thought just because he sold 1 million copies, and it was time for.
Oh man, well there was other mad stuff with that as well. Yeah, like they pressed up a bunch that were like worn out, and like they all came out warped. And like it happens, it's not like And so like we hit up the factory, and they really sound about it. They were like, just like give us like count them up, and like tell us. Roughly how many?
It is cool that
the poor guy had to go through manually and like check every single record, see how flat it was. Pulled out about 300, and we were just like, so they sorted us out. So I had like a bunch of warped ones for years.
But of all the records we've had, that is the most popular one. That's the one that we've sold the most of out of everything.
Man.
Yeah, it was it's like really well received, man. Like everybody really liked that one.
It just works because it's like simple, but it's got really dope content on it. And having the ZA on one side and
the funky like
that on the other, it's like two slightly different vibes, but kind of both the same.
Yeah, it was really dope. Like back then they were 10 pounds. They were 10 pounds still, and like for 10 pounds you'd get like the best of two records. Yeah. So it was like
same with the first one. Like that was a great idea, I thought.
And the whole time this was going on, like every year now we'd go to Galway. Every year that was like that was absolutely happened.
Oh yeah. That's like locked in.
Yeah, and we were getting injected with all sorts of mad music from all the boys up there, and Jimmy had put us some Craig David into our ears. This like mad electronic fucking. Him and his roommate, who's a bassist, make this mad fucking techno.
Mr. Long Arms.
Yeah, Mr. Long Arms, man. And we had at this point we had talked about seriously exploring trying to get some real music out there. On ZA we were a little bit like kind of worried about it. We were like, we're going to force feed it to you a little bit. Like we're putting it on there, but we thought that mostly people would be buying it for the loops. We didn't think that it would be necessarily the biggest attraction would be the music on there.
Yeah, we were still pretty nervous about like putting out an only music record.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like. I'd said to Jimmy, I was like, can I sneak a couple of scratch sounds on there at the end? Like there will be a little secret bit at the end, but just so we can still say for heads that are into it just for the scratching aren't going to go, oh, it's got no scratching on it, I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah.
But it's quite funny. Like we were quite far removed from any techno scenes whatsoever. You know, Cy and Adam and I.
Yeah.
And
So
like,
it was a real techno-y sound to a lot of the records.
Yeah, I
so, I don't even know what I'm saying. If someone listened to it and said that's not techno, but you know, for us, like we didn't know what to classify it as or how to how to market some music. You know, we didn't know how we're doing.
We had friends who were making dope music, and we were like, you know what, this is. We're in a position where we could, you know, be risky and try to release this. And what the hell are we doing this for? We're doing this to be able to.
And if it's not going to be Jimmy, that we're going to sell something for, then like who is it? Like, he's made this thing happen that's just like totally crucial, you know, like So but also like I mean, it was funny though because like at that point, like him and Luke, you know, Jimmy. They'd stopped giving a fuck about what scratch beats should or shouldn't sound like a long time ago. They're just making their own thing that was scratch music, you know, but like they weren't trying to make him sound like anything else. So like a lot of people were just like totally shocked by how different it was when it was the real like fast stuff, and they were just like, why isn't it? Why? What? You know, I cut over hip hop beats, mate. Like, where's all the 80 BPM? Where's all the
got
140?
you guys gave me a test pressing, and then I would put it on and just cut to it, and I was like, oh shit, this is something hard and different. And so I cut to it a lot, like.
But the other thing that had us buzzed about it is that what's on there is some seriously like special music. For like, if you look into it, when you know we were like these guys that are on it, he'd got Valence Drakes to do a remix. And he'd got Alex Lennon to do a remix, The Person. Like, and those guys are in some serious stuff in their musical sort of spheres. And Jimmy's got the link with them, as you know, he's those guys' mates. And Valence has been coming to these events for years. Like, we both
all the connections were there.
So it was all like perfect, you know, and like, but some seriously dope music by people that are like heads in. Serious, what you know, what I'd say is serious scenes, you know, whatever.
Jimmy and CSM and like they'd been doing this already, you know, like Valence put out a record on like
Valence's first record was on Alkalinity.
Yeah, so this is they'd been already doing all this, you know, but we wanted to see if like we could like kind of like follow in that like frame of mind of fucking putting out dope music by the fucking people that you know we were at this point getting inspired by and hanging out with.
Exactly. And if Jimmy was going to send us whatever he was going to send us, we were going to put it out because it was like, it's Jimmy. I'm sure I know he knows what he's doing.
And it's funny though, like, that record's like all over the place. It's in a bunch of scratch. It's like a bunch of scratch shops and stuff. You know, like it's.
But it was also cool, like having, for you being able to, for Darcy being able to go into a random record shop and go, hey, I sell records, are you interested in buying a few of us? Being able to say like, this is some next level electronic music. Here's some like beats from Russia. By the way, it's got some scratch sounds on it. He didn't. It didn't. See, it took this sort of super niche side of it. Started chipping away at that and saying, look, we do. There's other stuff going on. It's not just these weird Tool records that you put on and want to just like scream because it's just, why are you looping this? If anyone that listens to records would put one of those on, just be like, what the hell is going on here? So it can be a bit hard to explain that to some random shop in Canada selling jazz, and Darcy wanders in and just being like, hey, like, there's some really good music. He can say that, do you know what I mean? Like,
it's cool, but like more variety, man.
More variety, exactly. And some serious music that people are going to actually pay attention to, rather than just like, here's some endless loops and really bare beats for practicing over. It's not just about functionality. It's about like the finished music that people make with this stuff as well.
And also the Lordcore project kind of started happening not too long after that. There was a lot of other fun, like in the background, there was lots of meeting up and doing sessions and lots of music getting made.
There's lots of stuff getting made, and like. But we weren't. We were still not sure that we'd be able to sell a whole 500 copies of something. Or, it was like. So we were. So we started like. It was actually Jim's idea, like Manipulate's idea, to do Lordcore. Where he's like, let's do use the Russian guys to do like limited runs. They could cut like 30 copies in a realistic amount of time. For a decent amount of money, and like. So yeah, we were like,
we want to find another vehicle to be able to fucking like release all this dope music that was getting made with like the records that were coming out,
and like put them out as like a limited edition thing, like a little dubplate thing that people could have a copy of.
Yeah,
but put it out on digital so that you're not being like, oh, you can only buy it.
I always miss the window on the records. So
that first one, man, like it was crazy. Like I remember, like we just sat there and just watched it sell out.
Yeah, disappear immediately.
I can't remember, a few hours or something. It was just like, what? They're all gone. Like, and it was only 30, but for us, it was like mad. There's that can happen quickly. We thought it would take a few weeks for it to work.
They went out quick, like real quick. I was like, oh, I see that. I will do that when I get off work. And
it was that bad.
Oh, I gotta buy the digital one.
But that was wicked and really encouraging, and so we're like, we'll do that again. We'll do another one of those. So we're on like volume 4 now. Fourth one was Valence. Joe Clockwork did one. Tools. His one was amazing. Like he just like. He put. I was laughing at him today about it, like because he not laughing at him. I was like, we were just chatting about it. Like he was. He put so much effort into the sound of it because he's like just so good at with like producing stuff and making it sound really nice. His cuts are like really sharp and like he's just really good at getting it right, And he was making these. He like set himself a challenge of making tracks entirely out of like. He'd pick a famous scratch record, like Super Duck Breaks, and make a track using like every sound on it, just in one track, and like chopping the whole thing up into like this mega like thing. And it was like, man, that's so like up our street, like. And so he did he did 4 tracks. 2 of them went on the wax, and then the other 2 you could get on the Bandcamp, and they were amazing. And he made that one. After we'd done, so then it was Crave David, and then it was Samaya. And he made a track using entirely Samaya's record that had recently come out.
Oh, really?
So Samaya is like a guy that makes. I know him from Bristol. He came and played a night that me and my mate Mirapid put on called Ghosted.
Ghosted Sessions.
Yeah, we used to like we wanted a night to just put on. Electronic music and beats, but like the more chilled stuff, and like for it to be like a sit down gig and come and chill, and like it was like on a Sunday, and like for you to just hear some people that might make stuff entirely out of weird drones and equipment and stuff, or like someone that's making, it's not all like banging club stuff. That was the idea. Like there's so much club music in Bristol, but like there was not a lot of really chilled ones. And Samaya was someone that played at that, and I was just like, man, it's so dope. I think he invited me up for a cut on something, and we just like really locked in straight away. Like musically, it was just like, so yeah, struck up a good friendship there, and ended up playing a few. Me and him just ended up playing a few times at gig, like turning up at the same gig and both playing there, and it was like, oh, wicked, yeah, we'll do the same thing and I'll have a cut of your beats. And eventually we hit him up about doing a record. And we thought we'd follow the same format as the ZA record, beat a side of beats, side of scratches.
And at this time, we started to try to get into maybe like promoting what we were doing a little bit better, like trying to key up releases with maybe events and stuff in a very simple way. With the Alchemy Files, we teamed up with the Gardens. With Adam,
we did
it was our first like launch party. Like kind of attaching a launch party to a record.
I remember seeing that event.
Yeah, they did this thing that me and Adam, the Scratch Sunday guys, had been going to the Meeting of Styles, which is a big graffiti thing that happens at the Symatic Gardens. Jim Vision kind of hosts it all basically and puts it together. And yeah, he was like, we want acts like what you guys are doing, like cutting it up all day and stuff like that, and
we were trying to advance a little bit on like what new kind of stuff we could do to sort of help you know.
So for one of their events, we were like, can we do like this, we've got a record coming out, can we like do a launch party essentially, like, and they were like, yeah, cool, you just run one of the stages for the day and like and do your thing.
Nice.
So so Samaya came over, Double Dutch played, didn't he? And like it was John played. I think John first played at that one.
It was a mix of stuff.
It was all sorts going on, man. It turned out to be amazing outdoor gigs.
Yeah, beautiful day, like
stuff
like Super Scratch Sunday style, wax. You know, the whole crew showed up.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Crews had started going places with portables as well, so there was a little portables session going on, and like it was really good vibes, man. And like Samaya did his thing. His record kit was awesome, and it had more musical content. And again, you know, we'd step that up a bit as well. He'd let me dig through all of his. He gave me like an MPC card. He makes everything on his MPC, and he just gave me a card's worth of stuff and was just like, there you go. Like, those are all the sort of sounds I use. And I just went through them and found stuff that would work as scales for a skip proof or as like a tone or whatever. And like, and then threw some vocals in there as well. And like, it became like a really nice record. And he did the artwork as well. Like, the artwork was wicked. Like, Steve Salmon did the artwork for Craig David, and that had become a thing of like, the Zar record had been amazing artwork. Steve had done amazing artwork for the Craig David, and Samaya did this. He'd been working on this he paints as well, and he'd been working on this painting the whole time. He made loads of those beats that whole sort of period, and I'd always thought in the back of my head I really wanted it as the cover, but like I didn't want to like push him in one way or the other, you know, like. And just I was so happy the day he was like, you know what, man, you know that painting I've been doing, like I was thinking about using that for the cover, and I was like, yes. So we got it scanned in all nice, and like did some stuff to it. I think we inverted it. It's actually the original's the opposite colours, but it looked better in black and white.
And this is cool.
Like scale, like it looked better.
At the time that all this was going down, we had started reaching out to other people to try to work on like more than one project at once.
Yeah,
a little bit. There'd been like lots of other stuff brewing in the background. We'd like connected. I connected with Red Mist online to try to ship him some of our records. I was like, you know, that's like my job is to get records in people's hands.
Yeah.
And I would.
He was the head in Chile. Like,
well, I would try to find scratch sessions and like just get like, you know, a stack of 10 records out to people.
Yeah, right. And you know, the guy running sessions and being the kind of.
Well, it was so expensive to send them from the UK to Chile, and I would go back to Canada every summer.
Yeah.
And it happened to be that he was up in the States at that point, so I shipped him a stack of records.
So cheaper to send it from Canada.
Yeah, from Canada to the States. It just worked out better that time. And he got it, and it all worked out. It was a big mission, like everybody like running around way too much to get 10 records, but it all worked out really well. And at the same time, we were getting all clocked onto his dope beats at the games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He was putting out all these epic loopers.
Yeah, he
really good sound and stuff.
Yeah, and he was just sick on the cut, and like we hadn't seen him as like what became modus operandi, but there was also FSO out there that he'd released something with community scratch music through Jimmy,
on Alkalinity.
They're
crazy.
And so it was like, oh right, there's these crews, and Chile went out to Chile.
Yeah,
Dan went out there, and I remember that being a massive thing, and like. Yeah, you know, we were like, these guys are doing really sick stuff. So, so he eventually, we ended up doing a project with.
Well, this project was followed up on the Alchemy Files, and Alchemy Files went a lot more deep into instrumental loops. Yeah, that was the first record that went deep on. You know,
when that came out, I just got a loop pedal, and I was like,
exactly. And that we were talking a lot.
That was exactly the idea.
At this point,
loop pedal and DJ band,
like
basis. You know, like. But to keep it skip proof so that it was like you could just jump onto it, you didn't feel out of your depth, or like a lot of musical records that have great content, but it's not skip proof, and so in whatever situation,
it can
if
be
it's
hard
not perfect,
to find the
it's
sample
like damn, you know, it can it can ruin stuff, and so like it was kind of trying to make that happen a bit more sort of skip-proof musical content being out there.
And it was dope. Like, people really liked it. People started doing fucking dope shit with it. And Red Mist, Diego, was like, I'm going to go all in.
Yeah, he had like loads of ideas.
On a like hardcore instrumental fucking scratch record.
And he did go in, and we put in like...
He spent a year.
Yeah, he did
over a year. We met at Adam's house, and we were chatting to him online. And he sent us some tunes that he'd made with the other two guys of Modus Operandi, with Gauss and FSO. And we're like, what is this? This is fucking spectacular, mate. Like, this is we're fucking in love with this. And we sussed out that we could all work together and like get a fucking dope record out.
Yeah. So he started putting together loops and deconstructing tunes of his to make them into loops. And you know, he had it down, and he made loads of stuff, and like he just wanted help with how to sort of arrange it on the record and like how to. Yeah. And so we did loads of back and forth, just bouncing it in different ways and looking at different shapes and different style. And we came up with like the idea of like with Serato, like you've got you know, with Serato records you've got every minute there's a track, and it looks kind of like a skip proof. Yeah. But then they're grouped into bands of 5, so you can see every 5 minutes, and it sort of breaks the records up nice. So we're like, why don't we do like, you've got so much stuff, you've got too much stuff for one record, so let's like break it down into the essential ones that we want, and then we'll put in between, like we've been doing with the other records, put little secret ones in between. Yeah. And then we'll also break it down into like the first 5 tracks will be like the vocals, and then the next 5 tracks will be the drums, and the next 5 tracks will be the bass.
Yeah, I really like how that style was set up, actually.
Yeah, so it was like an easy map to follow.
The second you mess with it a few times, you know, like, okay, like, oh, I want to start using some vocals.
Yeah, and you don't have to know exactly where everything is, but it's like...
You know, this is a drum section, this is the brass section. It's like...
Yeah, when somebody's like, you got drums? You're like, yep, right.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm going to land on it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a cool thing of that. And his mate mastered it as well. And like, that's something that, you know, like I said, like we gradually learn each time, like how to make it sound better, you know, and he had his mate mastering it, and he was really good at mastering it. He like, because he was a scratcher as well, so he kind of could tell both sides of the like coming at it from an audio, because a lot of making a scratch record goes against a lot of audio engineers'
best wishes,
training, you know, just their fundamental knowledge of like what is actually the best thing to do. They're just like, why would you do that? But
we were talking
for us, it's kind of like sacrificing some of those perfections to be able to do scratch records, you know.
But like, what's a good example of that? Like, in
like
practice,
the ultra pitch thing, like,
right?
You absolutely shouldn't cut a record not at the speed that it's supposed to be played at. Like, why would you do that? You're messing with the
fidelity.
Like, it's like it's kind of like resolution. Like you're messing with, and there's a bunch of other reasons with the ultra pitch thing that it's like it's kind of wrong.
You're working against yourself.
Yeah, you're really working against it. But like, again, it's a bit like with the thing with the skip with the portable things, and the fact that they all get beaten up, and it's kind of like, who cares, it's on portables. With this, it's kind of like, who cares, it's a scratch record.
Yeah, we're scratching it. All we're doing is destroying
if I made it really high fidelity, you know, super high fidelity anyway, like it's gonna get destroyed anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But like, there's stuff like, I mean, if you think about it, like, you know how human hearing is like 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz,
somewhere in there.
So we've already like sped the audio up to put it on an ultra pitch thing. You've sped everything up, sped the whole thing up, and so all the frequencies that would normally be right at the top of what you could hear have now been pushed right up to probably stuff you can't even hear, and maybe a sound card doesn't even go that high, so it's all getting chopped off. Right. Then it gets cut by a cutting head that only does those frequencies anyway, and then you play it back down at half speed again, so you've probably just chopped off a whole load of stuff, like but it still sounds, you know, it still sounds good. Like, so like,
sounds nice,
you know, if you really went into it and like analyzed it, I'm sure like the 99 and 80 83, like there's sort of more, those normal pitch loops will probably be like a nicer sound, like better, like a higher resolution or whatever, but like it's perfectly fine for cutting, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
But yeah, man. So yeah, that was like Red Mist's thing. Like it just each time it just felt like it was stepping up with quality. He did his own art as well, like, and it was awesome, and he had this whole vision for it all,
and in the background, in the meantime, like every year we go back to Ireland again, and like always like new humans, just like we came there, new humans all the time, new humans,
and everyone's just like,
and that
everyone that's there is amazing. You know, everyone's showcases are always just amazing. Like, and you're just like, how is there so much of this good stuff happening, and it still being relatively small? You know, it doesn't have like a huge international following.
One year Jimmy did like a little private session in his basement before the shows, And like one of the loopers that was like massively featured was Diego's.
Yeah.
And everybody was so like, this is fucking like, this is
that's
as always the best shit. And it was like, why isn't Diego here? Like, where's like, why isn't Red Mist in this room? Like, you know, this is something that, you know.
Yeah. So then I guess that's when we started thinking about doing that Scratch Plus tour. Then,
well, we were always on to like trying new things, and you know, I have big stupid ideas quite often. I've had a fucking long history of like doing shit you shouldn't do, and
you did like the Scratchmobile, you know about the Scratchmobile.
I saw the boat version.
Yeah, just that kind of stuff. If you're not supposed to do
that's
it, let's
why
try,
it was stuff like that meant that it was like why I knew that Darcy was a good human to get involved with, because like he fucking travels to the ends of the earth to like go and set up a Scratchmobile on a boat or something, you know, he's that guy. He's like, he builds it himself.
I'm all in or I'm all
together,
out.
and he's just like, yeah, cool. I'm gonna be like flying through to this place for like this 1 day like event, and then flying all the way back around the planet because like it's my 1 weekend off or whatever. And you're just like, man, this guy is like, is into it. Like
it was all building up though. There was the launch party for Simia's record. And then Red Mist record came out, and we were like, you know, what's the next fucking fun, amazing thing to do? And so Jimmy and the CSM crew had gone on this epic journey years ago. You know, the tour
the video
across
he was
England.
talking about, like the 2009 tour, like that was both something that me and Darcy had watched and been like, wow, that was. I wish I'd have been there. Like that looked amazing. Like,
and it's funny, you know, in Ireland the whole time they'd been talking for a few times about like they had wanted to build a portable rig and they were going to put it on a boat. And they were going to do like a Moor tour, you know, and it never happened. But it was funny,
Yacht
like
week.
you know, we were doing that was happening in Canada, kind of, and we were hanging out with Jimmy quite a bit then. You know, we were communicating a lot. We put out a fucking record by him. Cy and Jimmy were making music.
You went over and built the Scratchmobile in Ireland, which is still rolling. 1984 Miracles, like
I went up to Jimmy's a month before Community Scratch Games to like build a box, which now is being rocked around Ireland by a guy who runs a shop called 1984 by Matthew. He's running that fucking Scratch Mobile.
That's where the turntables were on when he had this in store. Was it the same cart?
Was it? No, I don't think it was the same cart. That was just
Demo's made his own since,
that's the cart.
Oh, it is.
That is the cart. He souped it up.
He added the like fold out portable bit.
That's the
original.
original.
In my mind when he said it, because I remember when you were building it, that was the first time I went to the games.
I went to Jimmy's and we built it in his backyard, in the rain. Like we had to run to the store, get a fucking skill saw, and like, can we get some free nails from your friend?
There's footage of it as well, like that, because he went over for this mad weekend to go and build it, and like I was watching that video the other day. I just randomly came across it on Jimmy's.
One of the steps.
It's wicked. Like there's a crew of them there. Like Naive Ted's there. Like
one of the steps of building it was testing the battery, and we're like, what's the best way to test the battery? To call all the biggest badasses in Ireland and have a cut with a battery in Jimmy's living room, of course. So it was like a wicked weekend of like just having a cut to see how long the battery could go for.
Yeah, but great stuff.
You know, that was a huge motivator, and it was just like kind of like a logical next step to like, you know, let's fucking do a tour, man. We know all these fucking G's. We're willing to fucking do some like fun shit. Yeah. Everybody's willing to hop on airplanes and make it happen.
Yeah. Well, and we like
Diego has his record,
and we sort of looked at it.
That was just coming out right then,
and we looked at it as like we could put some money into it from cut and paste, because it was like a project. You know, it was like doing a record. It was like put some money into it, and it was like cool stuff will happen from this. So like
we don't have to make money. We can lose money on this. It can be a fucking good adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
And it can be a way to get what the community and what we're doing out in front of people. You know, here we were doing it like, you know, Cy's studio where he works from is like a little bit of a hub of people fucking dropping in to record fucking music and like working on all these cool projects. And like it was time to just see if we could get that out there, you know, like in a fucking organized way.
How many cities was it? It was 7 cities?
14 DJs, something like 7 cities. We were there for it was 10 days.
7 cities in my
head. It was definitely 7 gigs maybe. Like I think
so we started with Bristol.
7 gigs.
Yeah, we did two. We kind of did two gigs in Bristol.
Yeah. Then we went to Woodley.
Then we went to Leeds, and then we went to Milton Keynes.
And
then we went to
London.
Whitstable, and then finished it up at the barbecue.
Yeah, so if you count the barbecue and you count the two Bristols, 7. But it was like every night, you know, we'd hop. We were 3 vans. We were 3 vans, and I think
we had one night off where we. Oh no, it was just after the Milton Keynes gig. We went back to Chop's house. Which
we started with our only nights off at the beginning, so everybody kind of crewed up at Si's house, and this was an epic mission, man. So Diego, we had said we're going to bring Diego on tour, man.
No, because wait a minute. You know what the tour started out as, man. The tour started out as an idea in Belarus. Was saying we've got to get you guys over here for Electro Food.
That's right.
MQ,
that was the seeds.
Noka. It was like we've got to return the favor.
Yeah, coming as well, right?
Exactly. So like, and then we were like, if we're going to do that,
it kind of teamed up with Red Mist release.
Red Mist hit us up and was like, I want to get involved, and we were like, man, we kind of like made it so that the ZA Records, part of the money that we got back from ZA Records was like put aside for doing this over like about a year or so.
And Diego was a big G. Diego, the money that he made off of his record, he invested that in fucking coming over. And But that was it. Like we said to Diego, like, oh man, like we really want you involved as well, but like we can't afford to get you guys over as well. Like we had to, you know, we're just doing this. And he was like, no, we're coming anyway. Like, we're going to come. Like, we're just going to fly out. Like, it wasn't even we're coming anyway. At first, he was like, okay, I'm coming. And then, like, he was like, listen, I have a friend who wants to come. And he didn't explain to us that the friend was, you know, one of the guys.
FSO or Ghost?
He didn't say which one. He's like, I got a friend, he wants to come. And we didn't really bother to ask too much. You know, I sussed it out with Sy to see what Sy thought. We were like, yeah, it's cool, man. If he can afford to pay for his fucking share of the fucking, like, you know, Airbnb rentals and shit. And
we were just trying to suss out how
we had a space in the van. Like, Red Mist asking, he's a fucking buddy of ours. We're down for it. And then, like, a few weeks later, he said, you know what? I have another friend. Is it okay to come? So I was like, it's a little bit mental, mate. We don't have room in the car, really. It's, like, kind of last minute. Like, what's going on? But we, you know.
Well, then we were just like, hang on a sec. There's going to be a crew of us. We need 2 vans anyway.
Yeah,
we just it was like, you know,
all the problems weren't problems.
You know, we've been looking into like big vans, buses. It was all really expensive, so it was like we're gonna have to get 2 cars and us drive it.
So it turned out he was just fucking stapling modus operandi together for the fucking tour. You know, he was making us do it.
Well, and he was loving the dub plate idea as well. So he was like, "Man, can you arrange getting? I'll send you some files. I'll get a dub plate cut in Bristol." And they came and picked it up the day before the day of the first gig. They never even got to like practice with it, and then they did the first gig with it. Like
yeah, he's a boss of doing it on the fly. He's really calm. He's really collected, man, and like he doesn't need anything but his own bad fucking self to put on like a
and there was loads of stuff that, you know, we were all into as well, like loop pedals and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, so it was, and so they came and did their thing, and such a highlight of the tour, like, because they were blowing everyone's minds up. It was like they were just like a jazz band that played turntables. It wasn't it didn't have the we're scratching kind of vibe to it at all. It was just like you could tell they were like
they were good at winging
evidently amazing scratches, but like it was about making this like improvised jazz vibe, and like and so much of it. They'd sometimes have like a hi-hat track or something, or something like that. But like more of it was turntables than I first realized. Like on the first time, it was like, oh, he's doing that, and he's doing that. The whole thing is just But it sounds so like it was I don't know, so smooth and finished. But like so they like and it was wicked watching them like develop their set as well, because they you know, they were new to playing that set pretty much. So like. We'd watch it develop, and they do it slightly differently each night, and there was always like these like huddled practice sessions, like over the computer, right? And then they do that bit, and like
you'd always see Diego with his laptop and his headphones, trying to set the deck up in another room.
That was actually exactly where you're sitting yesterday before today's set. He was sitting right there with his headphones, staring in the corner at his laptop with Ableton and thinking.
Man. In fact, like pretty much every set they did was different. Like, because I had recordings of a lot of them, and they were like
there was a lot. There were a lot of similarities, but like nothing was the same, man.
But like a different order of tunes and sometimes different tunes and stuff like that. And like, it was wicked. Their part of the tour was just like,
and that was
really good.
That was a motherfucking adventure, man. That was so much fun. Like,
man, and so the second van enabled a little bit more to happen. So like Moss Chops could come with us.
And we realized we had extra space. We got Paul involved.
Yeah, Paul.
And Paul was full game. You know, he's all in all the time.
Yeah, so we had like a crew of like about 15 people. 14 people running up and down the country in vans, and we were really excited because it was like, we're like, we're
everybody
helping make that the tour happen again for the leading up to the barbecue. And that's what the guys had done in 2009. That was so inspirational to us too. So it was like that was wicked to be
endless
a part of.
summer remake or whatever.
Yeah, well, there was everybody was so hyped on it, for multiple different reasons, but it all came together.
Yeah, and the whole way, like it was like learning and new stuff as well, man. Like learning how to fucking get out of all these fucking random situations that you get into, like
you driving.
Driving.
Well, that's a fucking epic, great story. So I got his license to be able to do the tour because we were short one driver. Of course, none of these musicians have fucking licenses, right? So Paul had his.
Yeah, that was my first like go on a motorway was 4 hours to Leeds with like 7.
Yeah, I remember being in your van in London and everybody picking on you the whole time.
Man. I was just trying to keep people alive, and man, like that was so funny. Like by the end of that tour, like driven on every like surface and like style, like there's like off road, getting out to Gilly's place, like just like what are we doing? Yeah, but like man,
that was good.
Yeah, it was good training, and like and also like because Jimmy for years has been. By the time we got to the barbecue, like Jimmy had sort of like hardened me in like operating the mixer and how to like stage manage and stuff like that. He had so much more experience in that sort of stuff, and like
you just do it.
So and just getting us all to just get stuff done and be on it and everything, because you had to get in and get out at a certain time. You have to fucking it's just like a week of that. And so by the time the games came around, like it was cool, like because we were all sort of on point with getting everything organized and being able to run an event, and that was good because it took pressure off of Jim, who was sort of like
the one
otherwise having to deal with everything to a certain extent, and like so that was a really cool part of it as well. It's like learning all of that stuff and like just doing it and like learning by doing,
and
dealing with different types of gig as well. Some of the gigs were like mental for one reason, some of them were mental for other reasons.
Yeah, like the graffiti and the place in London.
There was all sorts of stuff.
Shitty club owners.
Or the time the electricity wasn't working at the bar, so we didn't have a place to play.
Oh yeah,
and Jim sussed out a fucking
we went to Leeds.
Metal bar.
All the footage from Leeds is in the wrong venue. Like we went up there to play at a venue that some old friends of mine. I used to live in Leeds, and I had some old friends that were running a place. But totally by bad luck that day, like their landlord had some problem with their electrical company, and
by not been bad cut luck, off. They bothered not to tell us as we were en route. So we showed up to this place with no power and no plan.
That happened like that morning, there's no way to tell us, and like so we got there to that, and they were like, hopefully it's going to be ready, and it just it became like. It wasn't going to happen, and we're like, "Fuck!"
But Jim worked it out that we
like 2 doors up. There's like a rock metal kind of themed bar, and and the guy was
cool. He was
at first he was into it. At first he was like
he was iffy, but he kind of saw
like,
that.
Is it DJing? And we're like, no, it's DJing bands, and he's like. All right, like and he had a good night, like he had a good night.
Everybody had a good time.
And the place, like it was a slightly smaller place than where we were, but it made it better because it made it packed out and like
Lone Wolf trooped out there.
Oh
and he ended
up
the footage. Filming it all and doing like what's going on here. He like had a talk.
Yeah, and he got
on
the Scratch Lords show, which was wicked because he's kind of like him and Jim were like the concept. They formed the concept of the Scratch Lords thing, so like it was wicked to have them. Representing it properly,
and then Jimmy kicked us in the ass and asked us if we wanted to fucking help run half of the games in Ireland right after that the following year.
By this point, like crazy stuff was happening all over the stuff.
There's like all sorts of projects going on at once. We were working with all sorts of cool people in other countries and stuff, and we had started to be able to put you know, a little bit events on and projects and shit like that.
Yeah, so it was like, we could do that because we've got so many people that we, you know, more than enough people we could ask to come over and stuff. So
Jimmy was down for having us do one of the days.
Yeah, we like curated a day.
Yeah, man.
Basically, like, so we were in charge of the Saturday, picking which artists were going to be there.
Yeah, that was long. That was April. That was this year.
Yeah, man, and that was like, so we got Samaya over. We got Joey.
All sorts of stuff.
Diego came because Diego was now over in Berlin, living in Berlin. Yeah, so it was easier to get him over.
We got Famalik from Canada. Who runs Unlog. He's somebody who I've been working with in Canada.
Yeah, Famalik goes back before all of that stuff. Him and Darcy are good friends and like did the Scratchmobile stuff together.
I met him when I just started scratching again, when I kicked it off again. And he was like one of the first guys that I met in Montreal. So we'd been just chilling a lot. And it was cool. Then, you know, this is many years later now. This is like fucking 8-9 years later.
Well, and his name had always stuck in my head because his was the first looper that I ever downloaded.
Yeah, he put out this really cool loop, the triangle one with eyeballs and stuff.
No, the first one I got was one that it's not all his beats. It's like a collection. It's like a compilation one. But then the triangle one was amazing.
But he'd been doing all this mental stuff, so we brought him up there. But you know, again, like another year, like meeting fucking new insane people and fucking
it's just this whole like crazy trajectory of like. Lots of small crews doing lots of small things that all add up to one big thing, you know.
Right.
And everyone's sort of
everybody has the same.
You've got all the guys out in the States, like, you know, like Kodak running like Asthma Funk. You've got like Jesse Dean doing his thing. You've got like
everybody wildly different, but the same idea of that, like we can team up and do shit together and fucking have like a boss good time fucking like.
And that's how we managed to get the tour. You know, we got help running the tour. We were like asking people from those crews, like we'll put all your logos and stuff on the banner and stuff and mention it all and like
it's kind of starting to up our marketing game a little bit. You know,
like we were asking for like small amounts of sponsorship rather than going and saying, can we have like £1 million to do this amazing thing? Like we knew it was kind of a tough sell, but to heads it wouldn't be a hard sell, but they probably didn't have a lot of cash.
Yeah, and we wanted it to be good for everybody. We want the basis of everything is like a fucking fair, dope fucking thing for all. You know, we didn't want to be like getting the most money we could off of a small dope record shop that was supporting us.
It's kind of like, can you just help us take the sting out of this like mad thing that's obviously going to cost more than we think it's going to cost.
And the funny story in that is like one of the things that we said is like, you know what we'll do, the stuff that we film up, you know, we'll do like a promo video on it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we had a very vague plan about it. We talked about it, and we said, you know, we're all just going to film some stuff up, and then we're all going to get it together, and we're going to figure out a way to edit it up and make some fucking cool videos about this adventure that we had. But it turned out, instead of that, all that footage went to Jimmy.
Everyone had phones or a GoPro or something. And so it was like, but
massive amount
a few
of
of us
data.
had said like Paul is into his like documenting stuff and like
just GoPro.
He's got like GoPro,
a little gimbal handle.
Jack had a
shit.
GoPro that he won. And like
and everybody had
twice.
And so we had enough cameras floating around, and we just had a little bit of a thing at saying to people like.
Film stuff,
and
get it to us.
Film random stuff. Don't just film the gigs. Just film random stuff, and like eventually we'll figure out how to get it all to one. And it ended up Jimmy had been
making these videos. Like he was talking about one earlier when I went up there to Galway, made the Galway Scratch Mobile. But Jimmy had been doing like this series of fucking skate videos on scratching adventures in fucking Ireland.
I remember the Berlin one as well. The Berlin Lords one.
It was funny.
All these Lords,
he developed his own kind of little rough
gritty, wicked
style of editing where it's just like it doesn't matter if it, you know, I'd always be going like, oh, I don't think you can use that footage because someone's like held the camera sideways, and he's just like, just put it in sideways. It's fine.
It
doesn't matter, and like and it's Jimmy's like really good with that kind of attitude to things, and you're like, oh yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it? Like it's still the document, you know, like. So
he put out a 24 episode series, Scratch Blast the movie, which isn't a movie.
And just the effort he put in, like the
it's amazing. It's amazing.
He must have put in to like edit that all together, and like So and you know he picked it all together to tell it in a certain way, and he had this, and he had the whole idea of going like, we're going to release it. We'll release it on YouTube, but we'll like drop it at a certain time and tell people like watch it now. So it's kind of like when a TV show would go out.
Yeah, that was all.
You'd watch it at 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
or whatever day it came
on Thursdays,
out.
right?
Yeah, we put it out on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. So it was like
that was all Jimmy's plan, man.
Yeah, he was like, I want people
just,
to be watching it together, and like maybe they message each other about it or whatever. Like that's how TV works now. But like. The fact he just wanted it to be like that experience, like kind of thing, and like he'd thought about it in that level,
vein.
Like
it was cool. It was mostly all of us just watching the thing that we had done, but it did. It helped sort of spread word a little bit about the adventure, that we had and stuff.
Watching eating your dinner, watching the Scratch Blast.
That's what I was doing. Actually, for me, it was like, okay, the baby's in bed, wife's doing her thing, put on the Scratch Blast movie.
And he just had this whole funny idea of like calling it the movie, like
and
everyone's like, but there's episodes, and you're like, it's Scratch Blast the movie. Episode 28. What's the problem?
Because we'd named other shit wrong in the past. We'd put out like EPs that we called albums, and we'd put out like all sorts of stuff. Like we'd given wrong names to many things many times. So this was a really good follow up to just doing exactly that.
No change, no different.
Yeah, man. Nice. And then so now we're trying to do a similar idea of like raise some money through like putting out a record and have it fund some cool shit. That more cool shit happens off the back off.
A little bit of an advanced version of the last tour that we did in the sense that this time the record that's come out has specifically come out not only for the Scratch Lords to be able to fucking do the performance, but like also to help like fund the trip and stuff. A little bit more planning around, making
I didn't realize that part of it, that aspect of it. I thought I got the impression it was a show vinyl, like so it was like maybe sounds that you're going to use for the tour.
Well, it's exactly that. That's exactly what it is.
But I mean, I didn't realize the aspect of like the kind of to help further fund. I mean, it makes sense obviously, but
that's the idea. It's like so we've got something, and like we weren't going to just get it cut on dubplates. We wanted it as a finished thing,
right?
And it's like there was the first Scratch Lords record that Backtrack put together. And Jimmy put out, and there was
always meant to be a follow up to that. That's something we've been talking about for a long time, kind of like a skipless volume.
And we'd got involved with that by selling off the last few copies of it. There was still some stock lying around, and we managed to piece it together and sell it through our shop, kind of thing.
With a beautiful art on it.
With the woman and that's like one of my favorite Scratch records. And
it was always a legendary one because it was so loud and tough,
really
sounding,
and it's so great. It's so gritty.
It's a really good one.
Dirty.
But there was loads of material that went into that that didn't get used for various different reasons.
So there was this idea that
so like there was always this background idea of like doing another Scratch Lords record, and
on the Scratch Blast tour, Jack and Jimmy had like been performing this EP that they had just fucking dropped like the minute that the tour set off. The Jane's Coming Home.
Well, like the tour was like their first performance of it they'd ever done. So Jane's Coming Home was the album, and so when we started sort of making this idea happen of like let's do a Scratch Lords record again, and like Jimmy, what do you reckon? What would your input be on it? Like, we want something from everybody. And he was like, well, I've got the Jane's album like stems you could mess with. We could use some of that as a. He put it way more vaguely than that. But he's basically gave me that idea, and like Jack had a lot of the sort of intro and thematic samples from that album, so I was getting him to dig back and find those again, and like Jack's just like I sampled it just one evening, like threw the needle in the record and found something funny, like I have no idea where it came from, so like luckily we managed to piece it together from files and stuff that he had lying around, but then there was also just all this other stuff like ready to go, like stuff that never made it onto the first record, and everyone else had other, I wanted Jim's input, I wanted like the Russian guys did the mastering, but they had loops that they were working on and being like, why don't you chuck this one on, and like there was loads of stuff, like Jack's bagpipes, or Jack plays bagpipes, and like we got his bagpipes on there and stuff, and like all sorts of stuff just to make it this.
Jack's photo was like the fucking album art on the cover.
Like Darcy made the other side with a collage of photos of events.
I saw the recent, the new collage.
And Cy had been working for a while in the background on this fucking concept of you were going to get a fucking beautiful etch
But
like all this stuff just kind of came together perfectly. Like at first,
it was all they were all like ideas for one
vague
day
stuff
a project will
around.
have that on it, and then it was like that's the one to have all of this stuff on, have to do the etching on it, do it with these guys' sounds, do it with the Jane's album, and like so it just so then. Once we set a date on it, it was kind of like we've got to smash it out quite fast compared to normal. We don't necessarily have a time limit before, so it was like let's get it done.
We've been quite slow, but we put out a decent amount of projects in about a 4-year period. We were about like 13, 14 records, but none of them were ever rushed. There was never a hurry to do any of it. Like doing it,
when you say it that way, that seems like a lot more than I remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, there was
in that time too. Like it seems like it was longer and like more spaced out. But
it's been like 4.5 years. I think we're in a year like coming year 5 now. So, year 5, but none of the projects were ever rushed. There's always all the stuff working in the background, and it kind of all came together for this one. Like all tidbits of like.
It was a really good reason to do it, and then like the fact that the etching would make it look dope, like. Like people would be interested in it, that's been clear. We had that little advanced box at this thing, and everyone's like, "Oh, cool! It's got that. It looks cool."
It
so
looks
it's got that
dope.
to it as well.
And again, it's like everybody, like Leighton at the factory is, like the etch lord knows every last detail of what you would need to know to boss out like the biggest.
And
I remember I got
helping us get
second one with the mushrooms etched into the
well, that was it, because I was chatting to him about how would you do that, like because he has it lined up, with it, and so we started doing the cut and paste etchings with the little cut and paste logo.
Right,
line,
I remember
he
those,
lines them up. There's a manual process he has to do. Like he has to look at the master copy and like see where the skip proofs start. And then he has to line it up and
like anybody else
without listening to it. Like he's got to line it up, and so he does that, and so. And so on his records, he had his little mushrooms designs and the 8-bit, the arrows and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, when we were like talking about doing it, originally I wanted to do it a slightly different way, but like he was like, "You're getting the cut and paste logo made anyway, and you have to make a whole film the size of a scratch record anyway, or the size of a finished record anyway. And why don't you just do that?" I'd shown him the design as an idea. And he was like, "Why don't you just make that anyway? We'll make that stencil anyway. And if you come to use it, it's there, and you don't have to buy a whole nother film because it's expensive to make and all of that." And so glad he convinced me to do it because then it was like, this is the record to do it on. And the plan worked, like we measured, we planned out the measurements and stuff, and it all came just right.
Just right,
and it was, man.
Yeah, sick. I still haven't listened to mine yet. It's sitting over there.
Yeah. Just landed. Just getting shipped. It was on the verge of being finished, pressed up right now. But Leighton managed to grab a box and bring it.
He went as far as getting them to on the last thing of the day on Friday. He got them to just press up 30. Set it up because they'll carry on pressing it on Monday morning or whatever. But he got that done. That was super. Props to him for doing that, and
it's amazing.
We all had a few copies to cut with this weekend, and that was so good. Like watching people getting first time
feeling them out, finding.
It was like their first cut with it. Like Kodak,
where is that? Oh
and Kodak having his first cut with it and doing that amazing set that he just did, and Chile as well.
Kind of that recreation of the moment of you in fucking Belarus in the forest playing the records and all that stuff.
exactly. That's all of that coming to a head of being wicked. It works.
It's been many years in a row now that Leighton's fucking delivered on getting either test presses or a box or a single box
behind the scenes,
into Jim or Jimmy's hands before the barbecue or
getting really cool shit done. He's a proper G.
So I got one random question that's simple, but where did the Cut and Paste Records name come from? What was the idea? We made it up.
We just needed a name. And,
Cy came up with a name.
Yeah.
And it was in the beginning. I remember,
did y'all have any other names in mind before? I'm just curious.
I don't remember. I think it just I think we just lucked out and it just kind of stuck and fit. It was kind of like we could call it this maybe, and then it just stuck and it was like, it's cool, it works.
Yeah.
And originally Aside cut out all these letters from a news cut and paste style,
Yeah, a ransom note. Letters.
Yeah.
That was the original idea for the logo, but then I ended up
Yeah, how'd you come across that logo?
I really liked this. So there's like these guys in Bristol like do this great. It's the guys that do these the Peng Sound label and a bunch of other labels. That it's a few guys running various different things. Really awesome music, all sorts of types and styles. And they would do these. It was all about like the release as a thing and like how they did it, and the design was always amazing. They'd have like it was just a really cool vibe, and I wanted to have like a logo that was like looked like that, and so it's kind of like the idea was like I wanted it to be like something you could put on a stamp.
Yeah, and, which is featured a lot in a lot of y'all's stuff.
Yeah, because those guys did stuff like that. They would make like these ink stamps, and it always just looked really, really good, and like, and it was useful. You know, you could stamp up it if you were getting like
it's economic as well.
Yeah, if you're getting test pressings or whatever done, you can stamp it up and like stamping up the mailer and stuff. You know, it's like a nice thing. So I was like, I love that idea, and like, so I was kind of like, how can I make a cool logo that would look cool on a rubber stamp kind of thing, and so yeah, that's so I ended up like just working out, working together a logo, and it's just with the same one ever since, like the same little logo. We made these T-shirts with it, the T-shirts with the big logo, and it was just like, how do you make a T-shirt? Just put it as big as possible, like bang, and like, but it was cool, like you know, loads of the T-shirts. People always, hey, have you got any with the big logo anymore? And we're like, no, man, we got like 50 made one time, and like, you know, whatever.
We each own 3 of them.
So I don't even know if I still got one. I might do. It's probably been given away, like, but like, yeah, man. But it was like that. What I do have is the only where we got the T-shirts made, and I had a black hoodie, and I was like, yeah, make me the one hoodie. Like, it came out all a bit weird the way the print went on it, but it was like, yeah, it's mine.
So then what's coming up next? What do you guys got coming out soon?
A lot of stuff brewing in the underground.
I know you guys are headed out to Russia.
Yeah, it's the Russia tour, man. Like, I mean, this is kind of the beginning of the tour, basically. Like we've done.
Yeah, kicked off tonight. The Scratch Lord.
This has been the first gig of the tour, basically, because we're gonna. Well, I guess I'm coming now with you to go to Brussels on Wednesday, and we're gonna see those guys and me, and that's like the Scratch Lords idea in effect as well. That whole idea of Scratch Lords is like, it's not always just the 4 of us that did the show tonight. It was like it could be a combination of international.
Yeah, I got that impression like when you guys first started using the term a lot, and Jimmy was like, you know, the lords from over and are coming over. That lord from over here.
Nobody could figure out what it was. At one point, the definition put on it was like, if you had scratched in Jimmy's basement overnight at the games, you were a fucking lord. That was the definition of Scratch Lords.
Like summing up, I think that works pretty well. Like I put that on one of the things that we put out. Like that's the definition of it. Like because like. So that would be what, like Kodak,
Diego,
and me, and
meet up with the Belgian lords.
Yeah, meet up with all the Belgian lords.
TMB and Swords and Odilon.
Yeah, man. Swords won the Clash of the Titans.
Clash of Titans, yeah,
that'd be sick.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man. We've been hanging out with him a lot over there.
Paul won the Clash of the Titans in Bristol. He's a lord.
Yep.
And so we'll go and then we'll go to Jimmy and Jack will come out to to Berlin. And
Sample Music Festival.
Jack's gonna compete against Paul and everyone. They're all going to compete against each other and decide who is the most titan of all titans.
Titan of all lordins.
It's gonna be just the most ridiculous scratch battle I've ever seen.
It's so great how it came about too. It was like,
it's kind of unbelievable the scale of it. Really, that's amazing, man. Like what's happened.
It's been pretty funny, and
that's exactly the same thing that we were talking about. Like worldwide small crews just being able to hit each other up and make. I mean that's a massive.
And it's really people being like, we're just gonna do it. Like, well, we don't get any money from sponsors. It's okay. We'll just pay for the tickets and just.
No, it's so cool. Like, the on the organizational side, people were really loose with the concept. You know,
but there was the right people involved, like you involved, Antrix involved, being able to say like getting Magma involved and like
and Jeremy like with all the Beat for Battle stuff. He's just he's like, wait a minute, why don't we just call every single Beat for Battle country we've ever had and see who wants to do it?
Exactly. And then so it became and now like man. Next week's going to be insane. Like.
It's going to be a crazy one. It's gonna be interesting.
And that's only part of the the weekend that's going to happen there. So like, that'll be mad. And so as in relation to the tour, like that's so we've got like 3 venues there, like 3 countries, and then we're going to go to Russia in October. So a little gap in between, but like. Yeah, we're going to go out to Russia, and because when we first started making the record, we didn't really expect it to be ready in time for now. So it was more like focusing on having it ready for the Russia tour. But now we can do the same stuff. Use that content in.
We were originally going to have the test presses for now, so you guys could kind of we'd have the test demo presses, it leading up to the Russian tour kind of thing. Yeah,
sick.
So man, like that's like now it's now, and it's just been the barbecue and basically been the most
mind blasted
insane thing.
International Scratch Mayhem.
Yeah, that was fun, man. I heard a lot of little. We should collab.
Yeah,
hey, we should meet up.
A lot of stuff.
Hey, we should do a lot more. I heard that happening.
Why haven't we done this yet? And
we work out a lot of stuff online, with fucking everybody on the planet. But like getting together, like everybody fucking getting in the same room.
It's what makes it really happen. Like, it's like it's like with Christian. We got a mutual mate, Christian, and like he was someone when I got the first copies of Cadence with Rhythm and Flow. Like, I just so happened like was going out on holiday to visit a friend in Texas, and I knew Christian from online, and we linked up, and from that linked up with Dopez, who I also knew online, and linked up with all those guys in Austin, and a few months later was when I met you, and you were here, and it's like, oh, you know Christian.
Christian was like, just go, I'll be there.
Yeah, cool, exactly. Yeah, like so it's like making these like links and their friendships as well. Christian, sure. Someone I'd gladly get him around any time. He's got a space on my couch any day. So it's like, and those are the links. That's a few people have been saying that tonight. It's just so cool to see everyone's like friends.
Everybody sorts everybody out eternally. It's not.
And the conversations that are going on aren't just about like we should do scratching and stuff. They're people just having like normal real life conversations, and it's not just like, hey, have you learned how to do a 5 million click twiddle flare? And like, it's like, everyone's like making bonds. It's really, really a good thing.
Speaking of that, maybe we should end it so that we can actually still hang out with people tonight.
Yeah, let's go and see those people.
Yeah.
Boss, nice one for getting us out here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming out, guys. It was dope. It's good to know the history of the cut and paste.
You gotta open it up.
Yeah. I was fucking took a while to fucking say it.
It's funny. It's pretty cool. It's like it's a rolling adventure. Like every day, like cool, this. Do it up, man. Yeah. Like this is what we do every day. Like we spend every pretty much extra minute that doesn't involve staying alive, trying to fucking,
and it's cool, like
do this. We love it. It's like this is a boss adventure.
Yeah, man.
It's really cool.
And I only just realised that because like did an interview with that guy Simon Hoo-Ha.
Yeah.
For his radio show.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
it was cool. Going, it's cool to see like that the scene's so active and that you are so sort of like
supporting each other and stuff.
Everyone knows each other and is into what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
There it is, episode 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It went pretty long, but for me it was really worth it to hear the story of Cut and Paste Records. The records they make, from my experience, are consistently excellent. And what they're doing for the scene, in my opinion, is really huge. So be sure to show some support. Go ahead and order a few for yourself. There's links in the description, and if you can't find them locally, hit them up on Facebook, and they'll get back to you quick about where you can order them locally. And last, a big shout out to the Playground app. It's really rare, I think, that there's a startup company kind of run completely by scratch nerds and beat makers who really live and breathe turntablism. So I'm excited to be working with them, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. I know they've got loads of interesting stuff in the pipeline that'll over the next year or two. So be sure to show your support by downloading the free app. There's loads of dope scratch beats there by D Styles, Mike Missionero, Ugly Mac Beer, XS, Beat Junkies, others, even their own in-house beats, which you've heard in the intro of this and it's playing behind me right now. That's all from their app too, and that's free. So lots of interesting styles in there. Be sure to check it out. And thanks. And I hope you come back for the next one. Peace.